Hi guys! Today we're going to be talking about Stranger Things, Season 1 and 2, or as my shirt likes to call it, Strange Fur Things. This shirt is from the company Teddy Dog. I love them because they combine my two favorite things, dogs and nerds. The reason we are talking about Stranger Things Season 1 and 2 is because I was tremendously behind, so I kind of watched it all at once. And personally, it was 10 times better watching it all at once than watching it separately. So I suggest you do that. I don't think I could have waited in between both seasons. Once again, it is a spoiler-filled review. I don't think it's possible for me to do a non-spoiler review. So just think about that every time you come here. First off, I'm going to be talking about Season 1. Yes, I know it's a little late for that, but I'm going to use that and compare it to Season 2, and we can decide which we liked better. You guys can tell me below what you like better, and I'm going to tell you what I liked better. Now, what I liked about Season 1 is that it was more of a continuous story. It had one group, and they kept going, and that's really what I like about stories, when I can keep going, and we're not going back and forth and getting me confused. The other thing I liked about Season 1 was that it was a new concept. I hadn't seen it before. We'd never got that kind of sci-fi show before, and I liked how they were kids. It was something that even if you were older, you could like, but if you were younger and just getting into sci-fi, you had more of a connection with the story, and it made it a little bit easier for everyone to connect. They got wonderful kid actors. I act sometimes in theater, and I don't think I could pull that off in a million years. I was just watching the show Beyond Stranger Things, and it shows you all their auditions, and they're truly wonderful. The one thing, though, that threw me off about the kids was the little love romance thing. They're only like 12, maybe 13, maybe not even. The show really never gives us an age. They're still in middle school, though. So, the love thing, I don't think it was needed. Another thing I loved about the series overall, but you really notice in Season 1 because it's a new concept, is the fact that this show took place in the 80s. But it wasn't like a corny's 80s show. The 80s was just a part of the show. It looked like it was a show that was written for the 80s, but they just needed the right CGI concept of today to create it. The 80s was just kind of a background thing, and it really worked, strangely. Overall, I loved the storyline. It was great. It got me hooked. There were lots of emotions, but that's really what I loved about it. I loved the concept. So there's not much else I can really say. Besides, I love the concept and I love the characters. So everything else is pretty much going to be negative, but that's because I just loved it so much. There's not much I can say in detail. Now, when I was watching Season 1, what I really wanted was more background. I hated how I kind of knew what was going on with her, but I kind of didn't. I just wanted them to dive in more. What I really wanted more background information on was where Elle or 11 was the entire time. We see where she is, but I want to know even more about that place. How did she get there? What was going on? Why does that place exist in the first place? You could almost have an entire series just on the lab she was at. And I mean, come on, I think that'd actually be really entertaining. And luckily, when I talk about Season 2, you'll hear we kind of got that. But when I was watching Season 1, that's all I wanted. Maybe you could have hinted a little more at something, but I guess that's kind of what made me keep watching. So it was good by them, good editing. It helped me keep watching, but I just really wanted more info, and eventually I got it. One thing, though, that did really bug me was the fact that by about episode 6, the show went from being a sci-fi show to more of a horror show. That didn't really bug me, but I know a lot of my friends are really into sci-fi, and horror is just something they want to stay away from. And when you flip it like that and make it a lot more scary in the way you're editing and the music and your monsters, it can really turn a lot of people off. So that was one thing that kind of made me a little mad, because I really want those friends to watch it and enjoy it, and they can't. And it kind of threw me off all at once because I thought I was watching a sci-fi show, and now it's kind of scary and has more of a horror vibe to it. So just pick a genre and please stay with it. When I first started the show, it looked like a horror show, And I guess that's just what they wanted, but it can kind of throw some people off. I have a couple friends as well that love sci-fi, hate horror, and if they see a horror-like opening, they're going to turn it off and never come back. So, just to let you know, this is a sci-fi show for most of it. It's very sci-fi. If you like Doctor Who, I think you'll like it. There's no time travel like Doctor Who, but it's very sci-fi. The horror thing, it's just trying to throw you off. Now, I have one friend who thought the character of Barb was just a plot device, and at first I didn't really agree with that, but once I dove into the show, I sadly did. She was a female character who was used just to get the plot moving and to get other characters going. She died, and that was about it. Unlike Will, who eventually comes back at the end of the series, and we get to see develop in Season 2. So I wish I just got to see more of Barb before they killed her off, because I'm not going to be as emotional about it like the characters and as strongly involved if she dies before I really know much about her. So you maybe could have given me an episode with more background info about her, or something else before you dove in and kill her. Another thing about Season 1 was I was really connected with the story, but I wasn't really connected emotionally. And the emotion didn't come until about the last 20 minutes of the episode, when we got that really strong cliffhanger. And the same thing seemed to happen with Season 2, which I'll explain once we get there. And you left me with the little Eggo box. And that just left me confused, and I didn't like it. And I was on a plane when I was watching this. If I wasn't, I would have screamed at the TV about this cliffhanger on to Season 2. I had one problem with Season 2 that I didn't get in Season 1, which kind of threw me off the entire season. This was the concept that there were multiple storylines going on at the same time in all different directions, and it wasn't just one group of people trying to fix one problem. Yes, sometimes that can be way more entertaining, but the way they did it, my head was going 5 different directions, and I couldn't pick up where to go and where not to go and what storyline to follow, and it confused me. I was missing things. There were kids everywhere with parents not worrying where their kid was. It didn't seem as realistic, sadly. And that's sad to say with a show that's so sci-fi-like, but there's still a little form of realism that you can have in a show like this, to maybe think that this is all happening underneath your nose, but when the kids' parents aren't even trying to find out where they are, and I don't know how much time has passed, and everyone's going 16 different directions, it's hard to believe that any of this could really happen. The other thing that I didn't like about this season was how slowly it built up. It seemed more like a normal, not sci-fi show at first, and then out of nowhere something goes wrong, and everyone's running around like crazy people, and Will is just falling apart when there were just little things going on with him the entire time that you missed because there were so many different storylines. The other thing I didn't like was the concept of 11 in this season. At the end I loved her, but in the middle when she had her own storyline that wasn't connected to anything else, it really just seemed out of place. Especially that one episode where she goes into the city to find her sister. It got really confusing. Even if you didn't find it confusing, it just seemed out of place. I wanted to get back to the bigger story, and watching her go and shoot a bunch of people with a gang just didn't really seem like the type of TV show I was watching. She was using her powers a little bit, but I thought I was watching a sci-fi show, and that's not really... It didn't feel as strange and as magical as the other things did. Yes, I was getting the background info I wanted from when she met Mama, but the city episode was not needed with her meeting her sister. But the fact is, she met one girl, and there are probably 10 other girls or kids that have powers that she is named 11. So if you're going to make an episode like that to set up something that could be happening later that is that important, you need to make it seem a little bit more stronger, and you need to seem like it needs to connect to everything else. You showed me this one girl who has other powers, and we didn't really see much of it, and they didn't connect to anything else. It kind of seemed like it was an episode that could have been thrown away, but it was also an episode that was so important that you couldn't have made it like a throwaway episode. You needed to make it stronger. The other problem I had with the episode that took place in the city was the second Elle or Jane, or 11, whatever you want to call her, was out of living with the sheriff, she was able to talk more. She was able to form full sentences with people. And there wasn't really an explanation why. Was it just she didn't feel comfortable with other people? Was she just learning things over time? I wasn't quite sure. And that kind of made me a little angry because, like, if she could earlier, why the hell wasn't she doing it? Why was she doing it for these people? Nothing, just, there was no background info to things. Things didn't connect with each other. And that kind of threw me off. And that was something I noticed throughout the entire series. Things were not connecting sometimes, and it kind of threw you off. And no matter how much you liked the overall storyline, you were still going to be confused. Season 2 was just kind of more of a reaction to what happened in the first episode. 11 did something, and the world kind of reacted to it, and we saw what happened. I wanted a strong start, and we didn't get that because it took a while for the world to react to what happened in the last episode. And I'm like, if it did, then couldn't we have just skipped it? We already skipped a bunch of days to get to that point. Couldn't we have just started the episode at the day where everything goes wrong? Or at least the second episode at the day where everything goes wrong? Bob, did you really have to kill him? Really? You're giving me that emotion I left from the last 2 episodes, but did you have to kill him? Along with that, Will could have died a long time ago, and it would have solved the whole problem. Instead, multiple people are dying, and his mom is okay with that, because she just wants to keep him alive. When we're killing hundreds of people just to keep this little boy alive. I feel like in some stories you just need to kill one of the main characters. And this is one of those stories where you could. I don't know if I would have been okay with it, because I haven't exactly seen it because it didn't happen. But you had to kill so many people just to keep one character alive. Along with the fact that his mom is okay with all these people dying, she was so worried about Will that her other son is off doing all this random stuff, and she's not even checking if he's okay. To me, that just didn't seem realistic. She seems too Will-focused. And yes, I know a lot of stuff happened to Will. It's not exactly realistic. It's a little crazy. I know you usually care about your child more than others, and I get the other people dying, but she didn't even care about her older son. It was kind of something that drove the plot, so he was out able to do things. But, I mean, at least make the relationships a little bit realistic. Please. Lastly, my favorite thing ever of Season 2, and I think both seasons put together, was the last 2 episodes of Season 2. They were so emotional. I was screaming at my TV. I got so involved. I felt so bad for everyone. I wanted 11 to show up. I'm getting over emotional just speaking to this camera. But they were also very dark. Not in theme-wise, in the lighting-wise. I get that was the point. It was nighttime. But it was kind of hard for me to see things. I was connecting more to the dialogue than to what I was visually seeing. And with a show like this, that is so visually impactful, I wanted to see more. I just love the emotion and the storytelling in those 2 episodes. And I wish the rest of the seasons were like that. I hope someone hears this and makes the rest of their seasons like those 2 episodes that draw me in and finish with the snowball, with them being emotional and kissing. And the kissing actually seemed right there at that point. It didn't seem creepy as they were younger. It seemed correct. I just felt bad for Destin that entire time, who was dancing with the older girl and not actually finding himself a girl. That's just me feeling bad as I connect with that. But overall, those last 2 episodes were the best. It really had an emotional connection that makes me want to keep watching. I want more episodes, and I'm sad that I can't just keep going on like I did with Season 1. So I'm now going to go downstairs and watch Beyond Stranger Things, because I want to have more. So goodbye for now. Go watch Stranger Things if you have not. Even though I kind of spoiled everything. Tell me what I should review next in the comments below. Next week, I'm going to be talking about the Golden Globes. Sadly, I've probably not watched everything that is involved in the Golden Globes, but I will do my best to review it, the fashion that happened there, and just everything I like about it. So long. Go watch Strange Fur Things, and I will see you in the future.